In hip-hop, there's nothing quite as thrilling as a good old-fashioned rap beef. The lyrical warfare, the clever wordplay, the brutal takedowns, it's all part of the culture's DNA. But what happens when these musical battles go beyond entertainment and actually end careers? Let's dive into some of the most devastating rap beefs that left careers in shambles, or so everyone thought. All this brings us to the late 90s, where hip-hop is about to enter its most cutthroat era. The streets are rough, the competition is brutal, and everyone's fighting for their piece of the pie. Record labels are throwing around million-dollar deals like candy. But here's the thing, there's only room for so many stars at the top. The stakes have never been higher. Record sales are exploding. MTV is pumping hip-hop videos 24/7, and the culture is going mainstream in a way nobody could have predicted. But with all this money and fame up for grabs, the game's getting dangerous. We're not just talking about street beef anymore. We're talking about career-ending lyrical warfare. See, back then, there was no social media to hide behind, no tweets to throw shade. If you had a problem with another rapper, you had to say it on wax. And once you did, there was no turning back. One wrong move, one weak response, and your career could vanish faster than your advance money. This was the golden age of hip-hop beef, when reputations weren't just damaged, they were destroyed. When careers didn't just decline, they imploded. At least, that's how it seemed. Because in this era, a beef wasn't just about the music, it was about pride, respect, and most importantly, survival in an industry that was getting more competitive by the day. So let's start with what might be one of the most tragic falls from grace in hip-hop history: Canibus versus LL Cool J. Back in 1997, Canibus was the next big thing.
And you give me some food and just leave me in the corner, I'm good. I'm not gonna bother nobody, you know what I mean? But if you provoke me, I'm gonna bite you right back, man.
A lyrical genius with multi-syllabic rhyme patterns that made other rappers head spin. He was the guy that everyone in the industry was talking about, the one that even the legends respected. But then came that fateful collaboration with LL Cool J on 4321. Now, you'd think a feature with one of rap's biggest stars would be a dream come true. Instead, it turned into a nightmare. The drama started with what seemed like an innocent line from Canibus about LL's microphone tattoo. Just a simple, "Yo, L, is that a mic on your arm? Let me borrow that." That's it. That's all it took to spark one of hip-hop's most infamous beefs. LL took offense, demanded the line be removed, and then, in a twist that would make Shakespeare proud, added his own verse dissing Canibus on the same track. What followed was a series of increasingly hostile exchanges, culminating in Canibus's second-round knockout, featuring Mike Tyson, and LL's devastating response, "The Ripper Strikes Back." But here's the thing, while both tracks were fire, the court of public opinion had already made its decision. Canibus, the promising newcomer who dared to challenge a legend, watched his career trajectory take a nosedive. His debut album still performed well, but the momentum was gone. The unstoppable force that was Canibus suddenly became very stoppable indeed.
Anyway, look, I would say out of all of them, probably Canibus, because, he was a pain in the ass. Yeah. And I was a little more disconnected.
Yes.
So it made it way more difficult.
Yes.
Moving on to our next beef of the 2000s, Ja Rule versus 50 Cent. This was an all-out war, the kind that changed the whole landscape of hip-hop. See, before 50 Cent came along, Ja Rule was absolutely unstoppable. We're talking hit after hit after hit. This guy had figured out the perfect formula, mixing hard rap verses with melodic hooks that had everybody singing along. From the streets to the suburbs, Ja Rule was the guy. He had Jennifer Lopez and Ashanti on speed dial, dropping tracks that dominated both radio and MTV. Murder Inc. was looking unstoppable. Then comes this guy from Queens who survived 9 gunshot wounds and seems to have made it his personal mission to completely dismantle Ja Rule's career. The beef actually started in the streets. There was real tension, real drama, way before any music got involved. But when it spilled into the booth, that's when things got nuclear. 50 Cent didn't just drop diss tracks. He launched a full-scale campaign against Ja Rule and Murder Inc. He had the streets laughing at Ja singing. Remember that line about Ja sounding like the Cookie Monster? That stuck. Suddenly, the same style that had made Ja Rule a superstar became a punchline. 50 didn't just attack the music, he went after Ja's whole image, his credibility, everything. And here's where it gets wild. 50 Cent was smart about it. He dropped these hilarious skits, making fun of Ja Rule between tracks on his mixtapes. He'd imitate Ja's singing voice. He turned this serious street beef into entertainment, and the public ate it up. Every time Ja Rule tried to respond with anger and aggression, 50 would just laugh it off and make another joke. It was like watching a masterclass in psychological warfare. The numbers tell the story better than anything else. Before the beef, Ja Rule was pushing serious units. Pain is Love sold over 3 million copies. But after 50 Cent got done with him, the decline was steep. By the time Blood in My Eye dropped, Ja Rule was struggling to go gold. The same guy who couldn't miss suddenly couldn't buy a hit. But was it all because of the beef? Not entirely. The whole musical landscape was changing. Gangsta rap was making a comeback, and that sing-songy style was falling out of fashion. But there's no denying that 50 Cent's relentless campaign against Ja Rule marked a turning point. The crazy part? Even today, nearly 20 years later, people still bring up this beef whenever either rapper's name comes up. And let's be real, Ja Rule didn't just disappear. He's still out there doing his thing. He's had some business ventures. Okay, maybe let's not talk about Fire Festival, and he's still performing his hits, but in terms of that unstoppable momentum he had in the early 2000s, that was gone. 50 Cent won the beef and turned one of the biggest stars in hip-hop into a punchline, and he did it with a smile on his face.
And it's disses personally.
I don't give a fuck today about that, because I'm facing those same situations in my hood all day. So if they got a problem and they want to go the other route with it, it's the same deal.
Now, let's rewind even further back to the 1980s, when hip-hop was still figuring itself out. This is the story of MC Shan and what people call the Bridge Wars, a beef that wasn't just about two rappers, but about two entire boroughs of New York City going head-to-head. See, back then, MC Shan was the pride of Queensbridge houses. He was rolling with the Juice Crew, the hottest collective in hip-hop at the time. We're talking about a squad that included Marley Marl, Biz Markie, Roxanne Shante, absolute legends. Shan was their golden boy, spitting verses that had the whole city paying attention. In 1985, he dropped this track called The Bridge. Now, on the surface, it was just Shan showing love to his hood, talking about how hip-hop grew up in Queensbridge. No big deal, right? Wrong. That's when this dude from the South Bronx named KRS-One entered the chat, and everything changed. KRS-One took that track as a direct challenge to the Bronx's status as the birthplace of hip-hop. Remember, this was the 80s. Geography meant everything in hip-hop. You couldn't just go around claiming your borough started hip-hop without expecting some pushback. So KRS drops South Bronx in response, basically saying, hold up, you got your history wrong. Now, this is where things get interesting. Instead of backing down, the Juice Crew doubles down. They come back with Kill That Noise. It's a solid track, but what they didn't know was that KRS-One was about to drop what many consider one of the most devastating diss tracks of all time. The Bridge Is Over. It was more like a demolition than just a song. KRS-One took everything MC Shan stood for and dismantled it piece by piece. The impact was so severe that many credit this beef with permanently altering the power dynamics between the Bronx and Queens in hip-hop. MC Shan's career never reached the heights it seemed destined for before the beef. Now, let me tell you about what might be the most spectacular self-destruction in hip-hop history: Benzino versus Eminem. This one's wild because Benzino wasn't just some random rapper trying to make a name for himself. This dude was literally holding the keys to hip-hop's kingdom as the co-owner of The Source magazine. Back then, The Source was like the hip-hop Bible. Their word was law, and their mic rating system could make or break careers. But here's where Benzino messed up. The Source gives Eminem's Marshall Mathers LP a 4 mic rating out of 5. Eminem's camp feels like they deserved 5 mics. Normal people might have just shrugged this off, but nah. This sparked a war that would end up burning down everything Benzino had built. Instead of keeping it professional, Benzino decides to put on his rapper hat. Well, he had been trying to make it as a rapper for years with his group Made Men, but nobody was really checking for his music like that. But suddenly, he's dropping diss tracks aimed at one of the hottest rappers in the game. It's like watching somebody bring a water pistol to a nuclear war. He released tracks like Pull Your Skirt Up and Die Another Day. But Eminem's responses, particularly Nail in the Coffin and The Sauce, were devastating. M didn't just attack Benzino's skills, he questioned his credibility, his age, his motives, everything. The result? Benzino's reputation in hip-hop took a hit from which it never recovered. The Source magazine, once hip-hop's Bible, lost credibility. It's a perfect example of how choosing the wrong opponent can have consequences far beyond the musical arena. Fast forward to more recent times, and we have Machine Gun Kelly versus Eminem. Yeah, the career killer strikes again. MGK was building a solid career in hip-hop. Cleveland rapper, technical skills on point, bad boy image, decent following. He had this whole rock star rapper thing going on before it was trendy. But one tweet about Eminem's daughter from 2012 would come back to haunt him years later. He tweeted about Eminem's daughter being hot. When the beef finally exploded in 2018, it gave us 2 of the most talked about diss tracks in recent memory. MGK's Rap Devil, and Eminem's response, Kill Shot. Now, Rap Devil wasn't a bad diss track. In fact, many praised MGK's courage and execution. But Kill Shot was, well, exactly what it claimed to be. The aftermath saw MGK pivot to pop punk, leading many to conclude that Eminem had effectively ended his rap career. We also have the Meek Mill versus Drake situation, which started with a tweet heard around the world. In 2015, Meek accused Drake of using ghostwriters, setting off a chain of events that would dominate hip-hop discourse for months. Drake's responses, Charged Up and, especially, Back to Back, became instant classics, while Meek's delayed response left many fans underwhelmed. The impact was immediate and severe. Meek Mill, who was riding high off his Dreams Worth More Than Money album, became the subject of countless memes and jokes. His credibility took a hit, and for a while, it seems like his career might never recover. And for many people, Meek has not been able to rise again. You know what's funny? Most of these beefs could have been avoided with a phone call, a conversation, or just letting go of pride for a minute. Instead, they turned into all-out wars that changed the whole landscape of hip-hop. And yeah, they might be good for entertainment, but the price of losing, that's something nobody's really ready for.